trying to get much more information, right? So our intention is not that okay, how many people are telling this point, right? How many persons are liking my food or liking my product or liking my website or liking my application, right? How many people gave the rating of 4? So that is not my intention in a qualitative. My intention is what are the features they liked, what are the features they did not like. If they did not like something, what was the reasons behind it, right? When I'm digging little bit deep, trying to understand the why part of it, right? Then qualitative research is much more important. When I just want to understand what is happening, right? Then quantitative is little better, right? 90% of the user find my Amazon websites this let's say this product recommendations very easy and user friendly, right? So that is a quantitative part. But if I try to find out why they find it easy, what is the benefit they find when, let's say, Amazon or Flipkart is telling that these are the product recommendations or these are the uh, people who bought the item you bought also bought these other items, how that is helping them, right? So getting the detail part of it, getting the why part of it will be covered on your qualitative research. So again, there are under qualitative research, there are various types of uh, carrying out qualitative research, direct and indirect, right? So indirect, the intention is you tell your respondent the objective of your research, right? Let's say it is a organic food or your laptop. Let's say we are doing this for our laptop, new laptop with better camera, right? So when we are carrying out those study in the, whether through interview, focus group discussion, projective techniques, we go ahead and ask that or tell that customer that okay, this is the objective of our research, this is our project topic, and this is the information we want to collect, right? So in that case, this focus group then depth interview, right? Whenever we are communicating to the customer or user our objective of our research, so that is a direct or non-disguised. Disguise means which you are hiding, right? Non-disguised means it is open, you are not hiding anything. The purposes of the projects are disclosed to the respondent or are obvious given to the nature of the interview, right? You anyhow they'll know that okay, you are doing the research for this product. Sometimes it might be necessary to keep your brand name, keep the product name, keep the project objective hidden, right? Rather than telling for which brand, which product, which company you are carrying out that research, you, when you trying to get certain information, in-depth information from the customers, so that is indirect method or disguised or hidden method, right? So this is the purpose of the project, are disguised or hidden from the respondent. So the technique is projective techniques. Again, like I said, these are the only three methods, but if you go and search on internet, there are around 15 or 20 methods. Due to shortage of time, we are just focusing on the top three method, which will cover 70 to 80% of the work. But it is not only limited to qualitative, it's a vast subject. There are newer methods, better methods which has come, but that covers around 15 to 20% of the qualitative research. So focus group, we had discussed in the beginning of our discussion last to last class. We take a group of people, maybe 6 to 12 members. We have a guide. Let's say the moderator try to find out certain information, right? And that's why he just initiate the discussion. Let's say I want to carry out a focus group discussion for the new laptop, which we assume that customers will prefer better, right? So my intention is to understand for this online kind of classes or their job, their work, their kids classes. So different things people need this laptop, right? And today's last 2 years. So I'll get those similar group of people. So that is a given thing, right? Similar group of people, let's say uh, IT employees. I will create a focus group for employees who are working from home. Some are IT employees, some are design engineers, some are UX engineers. So 6 to 12 people, that is one focus group. So I bring them, then start discussing the day-to-day life, how much time they spend in front of laptop, what are the things, or in which cases webcam quality of webcam matters, right? So it is not that I'm going to ask one by one. I just say that, okay, can you discuss your day-to-day activity in front of a laptop? So each of them will try to discuss. Then some of them will start taking, Array, now it is becoming hectic. We have to sit in front of, my eyes are paining, all those things, right? So I'll keep the discussion flowing like that. But my intention is get to as much as insight about the usage of camera. If somebody, let's say, they never discussed, Arey, have you seen the camera quality? Then I'll put that question. So as a moderator, my role is to guide them to the discussion where I want them to, right? Because my idea is I want to, like, from the company side, I want to develop a laptop with a better camera. For that, I want to understand whether there is actual need, right? If I go and ask whether you like if I bring 48 megapixel this or 10 megapixel or 8 megapixel webcam, everybody will say yes, but actually whether they need it. So rather than asking that direct question, I'm just asking them to discuss that. Oh, what is the use of laptop in day-to-day life, and what has changed in the last 2 years? How much time they actually keep their video on, right? And so I'll keep that discussions flowing towards the direction where I want it. So that is the main role of a moderator. So in a group discussion, moderator just keeps your topic and keeps sort of, right, for half an hour, 10 minutes. Then he chooses which candidate spoke better, or in whichever way he or she wants. But here, my idea is not that who is speaking more or who is speaking less. My idea is to collect information as detailed as possible, right? So this part already we have discussed. Again, a repetition, determine the topic goal. My topic is to understand the usage of webcam in laptops in day-to-day life, right? Identify potential participants. So there will be different groups of participants. One group of participants who are working, right, remotely from their home. So that is one group of people, maybe IT personals, consultants, all those people. I'll get a group of 6 to 12 people. So that is one focus group. There will be a group of people, parents, because most of the times if you see kids which are just joining school, 5 to 6 year old, most of the times parents generally sit near the kid and the classes go on, right? Because kid might not operate laptop or not exactly know how to use that. So they might be another group. Then those students like you, right, who was in their graduation, post graduation, or maybe in the eighth or ninth standard, right? So like that, I'll try to understand who are my potential user, different groups of user. So for IT employees, consultant, those are remotely working from home. That is one focus group. For parents of small kids, that is another group. For students like you, that is another one focus group, right? So like that, I'll create 3 or 4. Or in that students, along with student, I can take teachers like me, or teachers might be another focus group. If I believe that there is a different like kind of intensity of usage, right? So accordingly, I'll create 3 or focus groups, and for each focus group, I'll create this focus group discussion, right? So for that, I should have a guide. What are the information I actually need from them? So some information can be how, like, how much time they are in front of a laptop, how much time out of that they keep their uh, this webcam on, how much time they have suffered due to webcam quality. The picture is not coming properly, right? And it is very kind of irritating, right? Uh, how much time, like, there is a failure of webcam switching or on between Zoom meeting, switching on, switching off, right? Like that, I'll start down what are the information I require, right? Then when I start the discussion after the initial introduction, I'll ask them to discuss about their day-to-day life, day-to-day, like if they're student. So I'll ask them, like, what are the problems you face if your webcam is not coming, right? So it might not be with some classes, but you might say that no, when actually the placement interview is coming up, I find the issue because in classes I keep my video switch off, but in placement interview I cannot do that. So during that time, there is a trouble and I find those issues, right? I have to get a external webcam, right? So like that, I have to get those insights, maybe 90 to 120 minutes, right? At the end, analyze the session and present a thorough written oral report, right? and that should give an idea that okay, these are the problems or challenges customers are facing, and that is actual and genuine. And if you create a laptop with better webcam, these are the challenges we need to kind of we need to create a product which will able to solve those kind of challenges or problems from customers, right? So that will give a better insight for our product development. So there are different types of focus group. Single focus group, right? Single focus group is basically like what we discussed in the beginning, right? It is only one focus group, right? Then there are two-way focus groups where own moderator, let's say how it will happen. Uh, think about the example. Let's say doctors, right? COVID has happened. Doctors. So there are two stages, right? So what I'll do, I'll go and in Odisha, I'll try to find out. First, I'll go and create a group of doctors, 10 or 12 doctors who were actually much more involved in the COVID care, right? Across all the districts, each district have a COVID care hospital, right? Let's say 30 districts. I will choose 10 doctors out of those 30 districts, create a group and try to understand what are the challenges they faced during COVID care during these last 2 years, right? So I'll get those insights. I'll get those what are the challenges they are facing. Then I'll ask them to create and go find the, let's say in 10 districts, Khordha, Bhadrak, Baleswar, Paripada, like that, 10 districts, and I'll ask them to go and create a focus group among their patients, right? So somebody from Khordha, he will go and whichever COVID care he was handling or she was handling, he or she will go and find those 10 patients, any random 10 patients, and try to understand the difficulty of those patients, right? Similarly, in those 10 districts, all of those these doctors will go and understand the patient's difficulty. So they are actually carrying out those focus groups. Once they get their understanding of their patients, they'll come back again, convene in a group, those 10 doctors, and try to discuss their patient's problem. Initially, what they discuss their own problems of challenges. Now they go on and discuss their patient's problem, right? This is the two-stage or two-way focus group, right? So in the first stage, I ask the doctors to go and carry out focus group with their patients, collect the information on what are the challenges those patients face, right? Now they come back and I create a focus group of those 10 doctors and they are discussing the challenges of their patients, right? Same thing I can do for a teachers or students also. Online classes are happening. So each of the teacher, let's say from School of Management, I select 10 professors. Each of them will have a focus group with 10 students, understanding the challenges or problems. Then I'll create a focus group of those 10 group teachers or 10 professors on their own words, what the students told them, right? So this is a two-stage or two-way focus group, right? Dual moderator focus group. So dual, like the name suggests, there are two moderators, right? Generally, in the single focus group or two-way focus group or any focus group, only one moderator is there. Sometimes you might need two moderators, right? Because sometimes what happens, recording facility is not there. Somebody has to write. Somebody is asking questions. Somebody is writing. It will be very difficult parallel you are asking questions and writing answers, right? Or sometimes you have to initiate something, make them play a game, right? So it is easier to have two moderators. So dual, as you know, the meaning dual means two. Dual moderator means two moderator groups. Dueling is, as the again name suggests, dueling means fighting, right? So generally, in certain cases, sensitive cases, right, or certain product or applications where people generally do not come up and talk freely, right? So what happens, or people have many very kind of uh, fighting opinion about those products or services, right? So in that case, what will happen? You will have two moderators, like those movies show that, right? Good cop, bad cop, right? Same situation here. So one moderator will just instigate a question, because if they realize that okay, people are not talking openly about those topics or those product or services, suddenly one moderator will say something, right? And the other moderator will oppose, just to say that. Otherwise, what will happen? Everybody will start supporting. Yes, yes, this product is good. We are happy with the product and all those things, right? Then will not actually get the insight, right? So that is where this interestingly you will plan those two moderators. One moderator will start with the support or praising the product or service, whichever, like depends upon the objective, right? Think about politics, right? People either have this opinion or that opinion, but if they are meeting strangers, they might not just come out and tell about their opinion, right? Let's say about the government, and I create a group of 10 or 12 people. Already 10 people are supporting the government. Then what happens? The other two people might keep silent, which will not give a actual insight about the what about the total population, right? So in that case, I'll have the another moderator who will instigate, saying that okay, no, no, these are the bad things which has actually happened. Then people will start talking about that, right? So that is where the dueling moderator, duel, as you know from the name, fighting, right? Good cop, bad cop. Respondent moderator, right? So in some cases, what happens? Let's say if you go to Rajasthan, right? Suddenly you cannot go. If you are a male, you cannot just go to a village and try doing interviews with female participants, right? So traditional conservative societies, in some cases, it is not possible to go and carry out these interviews, focus groups, and all these things. Rural villages, right, where they will not let females. Generally, it happens with the when you have female participants. You want to interview or carry out certain qualitative survey with your female participants in remote villages, right? So in that case, what happens? Because you cannot just go to them and talk to them, right? And they might be little bit shy to talk to you, right? So in that case, you train one of them. Let's say I am doing a study on self-help groups, right? In Odisha, in different states, there are self-help groups, which is basically rural women come together, take a loan from bank or cooperative society, and try to build small businesses. If I just go and ask them questions, right, what kind of difficulty they faced, what kind of products they sell, then HUL has that project Shakti, right? It is one type of that kind of project, right? It becomes very difficult, right? One thing, obviously, I might not know language. Second thing, they might feel shy to talk to me, right? So in that case, what happens? I'll train the leader of the self-help group, right? Or I'll train one lady. I'll train how to take a focus group. So she will be part of the group, but again she will be the moderator also, right? So respondent moderator. She is a part of that group, self-help group, and when she is conducting that focus group, she is also a moderator, because maybe like outside moderator like me might not get much information in that group, right? In that case, respondent itself, herself or himself is becoming the moderator. Client participant focus group. Let's say you are doing you have done joined a market research agency, and you are doing a study for Maruti, or let's say ITC or HUL or PNG, right? Sometimes what happens, the marketing manager of your client might ask to be the anonymously part of that group, or maybe knowingly also, right? May say that okay, I am from this company, right? If let's say they are trying to launch a new product, so in that case, as a company representative, it is better that he is there. If certain questions about the product arises, he or she will be in a better position to answer that, right? So in that case, client participant focus group, right? One or two members of the company for which you are doing market research, they are also participating in that focus group. Mini focus group, again, if you have a very small number of group, right? So it is again the same as your single focus group. But remember what we discussed. Generally, the members are from 6 to 12. If it is around 4 or 5, it is known as mini focus group, right? Tele session group, again, same thing, not much change. Only if you are conducting not face to face through a Zoom or a, like in today's last 2 years, I think most of the focus groups being conducted online, right? Or maybe through telephone, right? Okay, in tele session, it is basically the conference call, right? Over a telephone. Electronic group interviewing, where actually video conferencing is there. That is the only difference. In electronic group interview, you have a video screen like a Zoom call or a WebEx call or a Google Meet. Tele session is basically conference call, right? There is no video screen or the video output available, right? So these are a few of the types. Some important ones. The first five you should be remembering. Others are basically the different versions of a single focus group, right? So tele session over telephone, telephonic group interviewing over certain like video conferencing platforms like Zoom or WebEx or your Google Meet, right? Mini focus group again, only the number of participants are less. Otherwise, all these are one way or other is single focus group only. These are different types of focus group, right? Any questions on this? So obviously, because if I go one by one and start asking questions to each of my customers or user, it will take a lot of time, lot of money. So cost and time efficient, covers more people, can be safe space for discussion of sensitive issues, right? Generally, what happens if something very sensitive, right? People in a personal interview, they might be little hesitant because most of the times we are going doing interview with strangers, right? They might be hesitant to discuss that. But here, when you have a group of 8 to 10 people, and if some one or two of them started discussing about that topic, maybe other people might start talking about that, right? Let's say talking about the oral contraceptive, right, to which women can use to like avoid this kind of pregnancy, right? If you go and ask kind of any female consumer or user, they might be like hesitant to talk about that. But in a focus group, when there are 8 to 10 women, and out of that few women have already talked about that, it becomes little easy for other ladies to talk about that, right? Early identification of important issues, right? So that's a qualitative generally for any quantitative to happen. You generally should start with the qualitative, right? You want to understand any company's problem rather than starting with a survey. Go and talk to your managers, do an interview or a focus group. So that will give you a lot of insights. Then only if you are not satisfied, go and carry out a quantitative one. Discussions trigger ideas, recollections, opinions. And this is a true kind of case, right? Sometimes what happens, somebody told something and it will give you a different insight to look at problems, look at challenges in a newer way, right? And generally that's why they encourage focus group rather than personal interview. In personal interview, what happens? I'm asking you certain questions and you are talking about them, right? But in generally what happens when focus group happens, somebody is talking, then the other person might think, "Arey, I did not think about that. Actually, that also happened to me." Right? Think about the Zoom scenario, right? Most of the times, lot of challenges happens. And if I talk about what are the like, let's say I am representing Zoom company and I'm conducting a focus group discussion, how these video conferencing platforms can be optimized or evolved for future. So let's say you are the focus group participant. So what happens when you start discussing? Some of you will start recollecting. Arey, someday this session was going on, I was not able to log in, or someday this session was going on, internet was there, but I was logged out, right? Or I was not able to unmute. So then other people also will start talking about that. It was not a unique case. They also face the same issue, right? So that will trigger different ideas, right? Which will not happen in a interview, right? If you have not faced that kind of issue, you'll never recall, right? You'll say, no, I have never faced that kind of issue, right? But somebody talks about that, then it will trigger, right? Disadvantages, because total overall you see 90 to 120 minutes for 8 to 10 people, right? 12 people. So you getting like it is not that you are going to discuss whole day or half a day, right? So you have less time to explore. In a personal interview, each interview will be 1 hour to 1.5 hour, right? Inability to triangulate data on individuals or household. Because see, at the end, what I'm doing, these are the things these 8 or 10 people, these IT employees talked about the usage of this webcam of laptop, or these 10 or 12 students talked about the webcam usage. These parents talked about the webcam usage. but I'm not telling who said what, right? This person who has a experience of 10 years in corporate, having this kind of educational background, talked about that. That will happen in a personal interview. Here in focus group, I'm not identifying each person, though I know the details, but when I'm aggregating the data, it is about that group, those people who are working remotely from home. These are the experiences of using laptop with a kind of average webcam, right? So triangulating, that triangulating means pinning on that, okay, this kind of person will have this kind of opinion, this kind of person said like that, which is easier in personal interview, right? Louder and quieter versus peer pressure, right? So this is something depends upon a lot on moderator, how you handle the focus group. If you just, because there will be always one or two people who will always talk in a focus group, like in a group discussion, if you just let them speak for 1.5 hours, it is a wastage of time. You have to make sure that each one of them are telling their stories, right? And second thing about peer pressure, like I said, and that is where the dual moderator group comes into picture. If somebody supports something, few people will be there who will have objections, but they might be afraid to share because already majority are talking about something. So they are the role of the other moderator to bring out, so that they are not bound by the peer pressure, right? So these are the few advantages and disadvantages. Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Then coming about the in-depth interviews, right? So in-depth interviews, when you go and either face-to-face or online, so we look into different methods of interviews, online, then face-to-face and all those things. But how you conduct an interview, right? Again, we are not talking about the job interview. We are talking about when you try to get lot of insights from a customer. Somebody, let's say, using same thing what we discussed for this laptop, rather than creating focus group, if I go to each individual and trying to find out their insights from them, right? So there are three types: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured is when you have a set of predefined questions. Okay, these are the questions for which I want to find certain answers, right? So today after class, I'll share a questionnaire where you have certain structured questions, right? For an interview, right? We are asking through online and getting those, and mostly it need to be open-ended, right? And that is a big difference between questionnaire can be utilized both way, in a qualitative and quantitative also. In quantitative, most of the questions will be closed-ended. I'm giving those options and they're answering which option is close to their opinion. But here I do not know what actually their opinion is. I'm trying to find out, right? So that is where the difference of different type of questionnaire, right? So here basically it will be open-ended questionnaire. So where I'm asking questions and I'm getting the responses, detailed responses from the interviews. So advantages, obviously predefined questions. I know that the control is lot with interview, right? Because I know that I need to get these answers for 10 questions, right? Data likely to be coded in advance. So this data coding I'll show you in the next class what actually the data coding in qualitative means, right? Lacks flexibility, limiting depth, right? Because see, uh, most of the times I just need to get answers for 8 to 10 questions, but there will be certain other insight which I might not have anticipated. Who is the customer is facing a issue, right? That might not get uncovered in a structured one, right? Unstructured is open questions, like kind of there is no standard set of questions. You go and say hi and hello, talk about them. So there is no particular order of asking questions, right? So you just go with the interview guide. I need to get a insights on this type of laptop usage, right? Right now, what are the advantages or disadvantages of using laptop with this kind of average webcam, right? So that is mentioned in my interview guide, right? So how I ask those questions, when I ask those questions, that is only like that is up to the interviewer. My only idea is to get those answers from the interviews, right? Whom I am going to interview, right? Non-leading in-depth interviews, control lies with the participant. Here, basically, what happens? Just imagine a scenario, right? If I just go ahead and ask, talk about your life in last 2 years, right? You can talk about many things, right? And in between, when you are talking, you might talk about your classes, experience of online education, experience of whatever the bad things and good things about it, right? But here, if I have a structured one, I'll go and ask, uh, tell me five things you liked about online education. Tell me five things you disliked about online education. Tell me one of your biggest challenge, right? So this is the difference between them. Here, it is open to you. The control lies with the participant when you will talk about that. I keep it open so that sometimes you will talk about your experiences about online education, right? In this structured, the control lies with the interviewer. I have that control and I'll ask certain questions and accordingly will answer. Lack of consistency in approach and fixed order of questioning. Obviously, that is a disadvantage because you never know. Always advantage is you might get much more insight. Disadvantage is because it is disordered, not structured. That if let's say I am doing interview in here in Odisha, somebody else doing interview in West Bengal, somebody else doing interview in Maharashtra, we might get different conclusions. In a structured interview, we will get answers for all those 10 questions. Here I might get 5 answered, in other way 4 answered, in other state 6 answered, right? So that is a big problem with unstructured interview. So main difference is you have a set of questions which you go and ask the interviewees. In unstructured one, you do not have set of questions. It is a open discussion. Semi-structured, obviously it lies in between them. Some questions will be structured, some questions will be unstructured, right? So ideally, this is the best approach because it takes the best of both the world, right? Depending upon the time, effort you have available, right? Some part obviously should be open-ended, some part should be closed-ended. When I say closed-ended, structured, not closed-ended, structured, right? So you go and ask certain questions, then you ask them, okay, now you talk about your experiences, right? So that is a little better approach rather than following structured and unstructured, right? Order can vary, control lies with interview. So here both because it is a mix of structured and unstructured. Maybe time consuming, reliant on skill of interviewer, but trust to the responses, right? Because it lot to do with how that interview is conducting those interviews, right? Because participants might start lying, right? Once they know that okay, I have already told 5 advantages, now I cannot go back and talk about those disadvantages, right? So those kind of challenges might happen, right? So but I feel, although there is no best way, I feel that semi-structured takes the best of both structured and unstructured. Some questions should be structured, that okay, one by one you ask and they get the answer. At the end, you can ask them to give their talk about their experiences, right? So that is a better way to approach any interview, right? And any questions particular to interview types?
Sir, is it the company that sets the rule that a moderator should be going with structured or semi-structured, or it depends upon the moderator how the interview goes on? Like if he or she feels that if by semi-structured they are not like in structured they are not getting whatever answers they need, so they can opt for semi-structured. Like what are the guidelines provided by the
Yeah,
company
so
to the?
yeah, if you remember, we discussed something on the research plan. First part is your research objective or identification of problem. Second is research plan. So when you are writing your research plan, you have to, let's say if you are the market research analyst, you have to plan for which kind of interview you are going to do. Because remember, it is all about the money. If you are from a market research agency, what kind of, whether you carry out a structured or a semi-structured and unstructured, there will be different effort will be required, different experience will be required. And for an unstructured or a semi-structured one, you need somebody who is that in market research field maybe for 3 or 5 years, because you need certain kind of skill sets to get certain insight. Structured one, you send anyone with that questionnaire. It is just somebody is going face to face and can you tell me about this thing? Can you tell me about this thing, right? And writing down the answer. A fresher can go with a structured questionnaire because you have a questionnaire inbuilt. But for conducting a semi-structured and unstructured, you need somebody with a field experience, right? I don't know whether I was talking about that example in the BRM class. Uh, Actually, like when I was doing MBA, one kind of a market research manager, I forgot her name. She came for a guest lecture in one of the market research class. So she was sharing her experience and said the same story what I told you, Rajasthan. So she was from basically born and brought up in Mumbai. So city girl. So she joined Nielsen and she was there for 8 to 10 years by the time she came to our campus for that talk. So she told one of the for a sanitary napkins or something they were doing this study in rural village market. So she went and the study was I think Rajasthan, Gujarat, all those places, western part of India. So when she went to those villages in jeans and top, nobody in that village was willing to talk to them. She will go and knock on the door. Nobody was willing to talk to her. Then she was frustrated. She came back and told her manager that time, "Arey, like I did not get any response today. I went with all the preparations. I traveled around 200 kilometers up and down, but today I got zero response." Because the her manager was much more experienced, she just asked her, "What did you wear today?" So she told, "No, this is a strange question to ask." But anyway, she replied, "Okay, I was in jeans and top, and I went there and started." She told, "When you are going for this kind of research, try to be one of them, right? Nobody is going to share this kind of sensitive details with a stranger, right?" So it is not about the questions, right? It is about how you approach those audience also, how you approach your customers also. So next time she went on after a week or so, obviously different village, but she was in that traditional, obviously not like she was fully like that they are women, but actual traditional sari and all those things. And now she was able to get a better response, right? So this part should come in your research plan. If you are trying to conduct certain information where you can put a pressure, because you have to calculate the budget also, right? Sending a fresher for 30 days trip for market research, let's say there is X amount. But if you are conducting a semi-structured and unstructured, it might cost you 2x or 3x times. So remember what we discussed in the market research plan, right? So when you are creating research plan, parallelly you are creating a schedule, you are creating a budget also. Because based on that budget, your client is going to approve your project. Even it is an internal project also. Before you start a market research project, you should have a plan and a budget and a schedule. So you prepare a plan, schedule, then create a budget, go to your internal management. If it is internal project, they might approve. If it is, let's say for a client, you are a market research agency. Based on that budget, they will approve, right? And qualitative research is time taking. It will take a lot of paper. It will cost you a lot of money. If it is a questionnaire, I can just send through email. If it is interview, most of the times I have to put that effort. I have to in front of that laptop, in front of that. If it is a face-to-face interview, I have to travel, right? And that is where your it should start or it should be incorporated in your research plan and budget. But to answer your question, let's say you are not able to find answer through semi-structure and you tried all the methods, right? Sometimes, like I said, this kind of situation might arise, right? Where your manager might be able to give you a solution or some expert might tell you, okay, do not approach that problem going directly. You have to go through a projective technique, right? If you go and ask this question in a direct method, you'll not get those answers. Then you again have to come back and say that, no, I'm changing my method. There will be change in schedule, change in budget also. Then take approval, then go. See, this is the difference between academic. In academics, nobody is paying you money. You are doing for your whatever marks and all those things. But there, anything you do, it is costing the money for your company, and it is not free, right? Traveling and all those things, you are like somebody is putting money on that, right? And they have to uh, approve it, right? So that was your question. I hope I answered it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So different types, face to face, obviously that is the best one, right? Time consuming. That is the disadvantages. Require some degree of travel. Nowadays it is safety risk, right? So this is what I was talking about, right? It is not about what some people are talking, right? And that is where the training in qualitative research is must. If some of you are joining, I don't know, I think some people joined in this market research agencies, and you will be lucky if you get into this qualitative research, because they'll train you certain methods of interviewing and all those things, right? Because it, like I said, how a person talks, how many pauses he or she takes, what are their facial expressions, right? There are many ways to understand whether a person is, whatever he or she is telling, correct, or he is just imagining, or she is just imagining some things and talking about it, right? So that is the interesting part, talking about psychology, understanding the psychology of person, which will not be possible in a quantitative. Quantitative is mostly about statistics, right? You get information and carry out data analysis. This is the most interesting part about qualitative, right? The psychology part, how to read a person, how to read body language, right? If some of you are get a chance, do that, right? No matter how much is the pay, it will have a lasting impression in you. Later on, it will actually help you, right? Maybe the pay will be little less, but the methods, if they teach you properly, it will be very exciting learning. Video interview again, uh, obviously if there is a geographic distance, I want to carry out certain interviews with somebody in South India, North India, or maybe outside India, right? It will not be possible to travel in this time, cost effective. Possible to see body face expressions, not necessarily in today's Zoom world. Online it will not be that great to understand somebody's body language, right? Though it is written here, I do not agree with that. Technical requirements and literacy, confidentiality, right? Sometimes what happens, people who might not like to record something, right? Not talk on in front of a camera, right? Certain sensitive things, right? So remember what, and that should come in your research plan. If it is a regular product, FMCG product, food product, electronics, right? Everybody will be free to talk about. But certain sensitive, which is like kind of, let's say, sanitary napkins, contraceptives, condoms, and all those things, right? People, nobody will talk in front of a camera, right? So in that case, if you're doing carry out a market research for them, so you have to think of face-to-face interview, right? So where that person will know that you are not recording something, his her or her name is confidential, and then they will be able to talk. If you're in front of a laptop and doing this kind of interview, nobody will be willing to talk, right? Online chat, email interview, this is the easiest one, but again, depends upon whether confidentiality will be kept or not. So here you send through a email certain questions or certain kind of Google form and all those things. People write about their experiences. Again, how much accurately they write, how much honest they are about it, it is again a question, right? If I send you today's whatever after class, whatever online questionnaire, 5 or 10 questions, how honestly you are answering it is up to you, right? I cannot judge that, right? And I have to believe that you have been honest with that. Telephone interview, again, like if video interview is not possible, carrying out a telephone interview. Both are cost effective, but the challenge remains on the confidentiality part and how well you are able to understand them, right? Because in interviews, that is the must, right? It is not about the content, it is about the way that content or the words have been said, right? So the techniques of depth interviews, right? We'll try to complete in-depth interviews. Just okay, no, I don't think we'll be able to complete. Okay, we'll stop here. So methods up to this point we have covered. Techniques we'll start discussing from next class, right? So I'll share a set of maybe 8 to 10 questions, open-ended questions about your experiences, your career choices, and we'll gather that data from 2 sections. And I think next class is a holiday, 26th. Next class when we join, so first 20-25 minutes, I'll show you how to analyze the qualitative data, because quantitative data, all of you I think bit familiar, right? What we covered in BRM. But here first I'll just go through quickly how to analyze the interview data what I have collected from you, then go about the other techniques, right? And any last question before we close?
My attendance on this.
Roll number 95. Okay.
Sir, I have also missed my attendance.
I have
15.
also missed my attendance, sir.
One by one. 15, 158. Okay. 15. Okay.
77.
77, 158. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Chalo, take care.